Hey everyone, it's Sarah with RegisteredNurseRN.com, and in this video I'm going to be going over Alzheimer's disease. And as always, whenever you get done watching this YouTube video, you can access the free quiz that will test you on this content. So let's get started. Alzheimer's disease is a chronic brain disease that is a type of dementia, and it's actually the most common form of dementia. And the reason it occurs is because neurons, which are specialized nerve cells in your brain, which help you do almost everything that you do on a daily basis, from form new memories, learn new things, solve problems, make judgment calls, even with your language, being able to understand language that's spoken to being able to actually speak it. They lose the ability to communicate with one another, and then eventually they die. So why does this happen? Well, it actually happens over a period of time, and the reason it does is because of a couple things that I really want you to remember, because it's going to be the foundation for understanding the pathophysiology of Alzheimer's. Well, we have the development of plaques, specifically beta amyloid plaques. And these plaques like to form outside of the neuron. And when they do that, they're going to really impede communication between neuron to neuron and other structures. Then we have the development of neurofibrillary tangles. And these tangles like to form within the neuron itself. So over time, this is going to happen. And then whenever you have a patient who's in the late stage of Alzheimer's disease, the most severe stage, what can result is that this brain tissue can shrink and we have brain atrophy. So over time, as this happens, the result is you're going to see a progressive loss, meaning it's going to get worse over time, where they're going to start to lose their memory. They're going to start having learning problems. They won't be able to problem solve, have judgment calls, communicate with you. They'll have behavior changes. They can have severe depression, mood swings, and then eventually towards the middle stage to the severe stage, they're going to lose the ability to have self-care. So they're going to be totally dependent on a caregiver. Now let's look at some interesting facts about Alzheimer's disease. So according to the CDC, they say that this is the 5th leading cause of death among adults ages 65 or older. Also, in 2021, it was estimated that 6.2 million Americans lived with Alzheimer's disease. Now this is actually expected to increase. By 2060, they say that 14 million people could be living with this disease. So as you can see, this is a huge deal. And as healthcare providers, we really have to be familiar with this disease. Now, women are more likely than men to develop Alzheimer's disease. And the reason for this, they say, is because women tend to live longer than men. And Hispanics and African Americans tend to have a higher risk for developing this disease. Now, in regards to signs and symptoms, most patients don't start showing signs and symptoms until they're over the age of 60. However, in some patients, this is not the case. They may start showing signs and symptoms a lot earlier. Now, risk factors for Alzheimer's disease include having a family history, so they have a genetic link, or they're older, so their age, their gender, they're female, or they smoke, they're diabetic, or have heart disease. Now, there's various stages of Alzheimer's disease. You can start out just having mild cognitive impairment, go all the way to the severe late stage. And it's really dependent on the patient how fast they're going to go through each stage. And I want to be going over the stages a little bit later in the lecture. And the exact cause of Alzheimer's disease is not fully understood. They know that there's plaques and tangles, but there's still a lot that we need to learn about this disease. And there's currently no cure, but there are medications available to help decrease symptoms. When we talk about the pathophysiology of this disease, we first have to go back and look at the neuron. So you have billions of neurons in your brain, and these neurons help you function. And they're very busy all the time. They're constantly communicating with each other, sending electrical signals, and releasing neurotransmitters to help communicate their messages. So let's look at this healthy neuron here, look at its parts and how a message is sent throughout a neuron. So protruding off of the neuron is a very important structure called the dendrite. Now dendrites, they remind me of tree branches that are just hanging out, waiting for something to land on it. And in this case, with the dendrite here, it's waiting for an electrical signal to come to it. So the dendrites receive electrical signals from, let's say, other neurons, and they take that electrical signal and take it to the cell body of the neuron. The cell body has a nucleus, and it's going to process that message that it just received. So here you can see a neuron sending the message to the dendrite. So here we have the axon with the axon terminals, and then a synapse, which releases a neurotransmitter. So the neurotransmitter is what really communicates that message that needs to be sent to this other neuron. And there's different types of neurotransmitters in your body. So these little chemical messengers can send exciting messages, or they can send inhibitory messages. Some neurotransmitters actually have the properties of being able to do both. So two neurotransmitters I want you to remember are called acetylcholine and glutamate. Because whenever I go over the medications used to treat Alzheimer's disease, it will